During 1870 to 1945, that child labor became a serious problem in the United States. The United States were not alone because Great Britain, Belgium, France, Germany, and Japan were in the Industrial Revolution. This led to an increased number of jobs. Kids usually had to do work in lower class families to help provide. Employers would choose kids because they could get away with cheap pay. Some bosses would pass kids as helpers. Being a helper means that you would have to work for your boss and you would not get paid for that extra work. Most kids would go and work in the mines. This exposed the kids to many sicknesses and diseases. The most common jobs at this time were in mines, glass factories, textile industry, agriculture, canneries, and as newsboys. Some of the others were messengers, shoe shiners, and peddlers. Though these were more of the common jobs, there are other types of jobs that were not as bad, such as setting up pins at a bowling alley. During the time of the event, many people tried to stop child labor. Many states made it so that adults and children could only work a certain amount of hours. In Colorado, the laws that protected kids unfortunately only applied to children under 12. Colorado was one of the leaders of abolishing child labor. However, most of the southern states refused to make child labor illegal until it was a national law. The biggest acts to ensure child labor was illegal was when an Italian immigrant, Camilla Tioli, was 14 and went and testified from Congress in March 1912. She testified that in the wool mill that she worked at in Massachusetts, the boss would put more work to be done and so that way they could keep up with demands. The boss would not pay them for their extra work. In protest of the faster working machines and less pay, the Lord's textile strike came into place. The Lord's textile strike was a walking strike started in Massachusetts. Parents of the kids that worked in the mill ended up sending their kids to New York, which was another leader of ending child labor. The leaders of Massachusetts were embarrassed by this. The next group leaving was blocked from boarding the train by soldiers and police officers. Then, as soon as they were there, the soldiers and officers attacked the kids. Witnesses say that, quote, children were being thrown around like rags, unquote. The attack brought multiple eyes to the intense situation. The children were brought in from Congress or the House of Representatives and testified of what had happened. Because of the testimonies, an investigation went into the attack. A different time that child labor was almost stopped was when a 1836 National Trades Union called for a minimum age for factory workers. Because of the call, Massachusetts made a law that ages 12 under could only work 10 hours. Connecticut followed closely behind, except it was 14 under that was the age limit. It was highly common back then not to know your age. This was especially true for immigrants in the southern states. The situation of child labor was becoming more known to the public and politicians were finally starting to take notice. In 1872, The Prohibition Party was the first political party to condemn child industry. 2 years later, there was a fire. 20 people were killed. In a mill in Fall River, Massachusetts, most of the people that were burned were girls as young as 5. They were choked, suffocated, and burned to death. The fire raised much attention to the public. Because of the outrage, there were many new fire precautions taken. Few people actually paid attention to the kids in the fire. Through 1889 to the 1900s, 10 states passed minimum age laws, and 6 states set maximum working hours. Massachusetts made it so that children under 12 could only work 10, and adults could only work 10 hours. Connecticut followed closely behind, except it was 14 and under. There was not one victories or losses. There were many victories and losses over the battle of child labor. One act did not change the entire course of child labor. Through lots of hard work, child labor was finally abolished in 1938. There were immediate results when child labor was illegal. Many kids were out of the dangerous jobs such as mining and in the mills. There was an increased rate of kids that went to school. This was good since few kids went before because the other kids were busy doing the work. This wasn't quite the best for everybody else. Lower class families lost many income sources, and this could have been very devastating for them, and they'd have to find different types of income sources. But on the bright side, this helped ensure job security for anyone over the minimum age. Now, in modern day Colorado, we have laws that make it so you can be 14 to get a legal job. There are some exceptions to this law at federal level. There are many exceptions to this law if you are in the professions that you have to be older than 14 or 15. These include mining, manufacturing, processing, transportation, and more. Today's minimum wage is $14.65. Because of modern technology, we are constantly having things be more safer for anyone that is working in any profession.